I do think that this is a club that really only gets up for Europe. And that has always been their identity and continues to be through this era where Barcelona have won many more league titles, but Real Madrid have won many more European Cups. And so you wonder if there is still that impetus within the team. Let's do it for La Liga. Let's do it for the Copa del Rey. And obviously, for both of these teams, getting ready for the final.
Welcome back to Scoreline. Adam Hunt and Chris Wittyngham here with you. Match week 33 is upon us in La Liga. Barcelona in the driving seat. 4 points clear of Real Madrid at the top going into their game against Mallorca, as you can see on Tuesday. Real Madrid are up against Getafe. Chris, let's start by talking about Barca. They are top of the table. They do have the advantage. It's been a brilliant season under Hansi Flick, of course, with these exciting young players, particularly going forward. But they only scraped through 4-3 against Celta Vigo. They defended like a pub team for some of those goals. There is a feeling, certainly, that if they keep running these kind of risks game after game, they're eventually going to get found out, aren't they?
The good news for them in La Liga is that they, at the very least, have a margin for error. And we saw them finally rotate Lamine Yamal at the weekend. Robert Lewandowski got injured, but there is at least this attempt to, in the midst of all these incredibly difficult games, try and scrape results while maybe not playing your best, because you can't play your best with the number of games that there are to play. I think you mentioned that defending and the issues that they've had. You see the number of goals against, the number of shots against. I think that second leg against Borussia Dortmund is a bit of a particular case, because you're going into a game with a 4-0 lead. You almost don't even really know what to do. The one thing, though, that it does expose is that Barcelona play with this system of a high line. And when you don't have Alex Balde, when you don't have all your main starters, there is something about the chemistry that it requires to play this system, and there is something about everything that goes into it and knowing the responsibilities and the fitness levels required to be so high up the pitch, to leave yourself exposed and behind. If you're going to play that system, you're doing it for a reason. One of the main reasons is to try and get your opponent to be offside, and they do it better than any other team in Europe. But if that timing is off, all of a sudden, there's one guy that's standing behind everybody else, and there's room in behind. The other reason is to make your opponent uncomfortable in possession, but if you're not getting it right, then there are such huge spaces to hit out on the counter-attack. So those are the worries. It's incredibly difficult to execute what is a very risky system by its nature, game in and game out, and have it perfect. The key for Hansi Flick is to get it right enough in order to win all three of these competitions.
Hansi Flick spoke pre-match about not wanting to underestimate Mallorca. They've had a fabulous season, kind of pushing for a European spot. What do you think Mallorca will be focusing on to try to cause an upset in this game?
I think the difficult thing for Barcelona, as with every game now for the rest of the season, is just the sheer volume of games that they have built up. And so it really is sort of an energy thing. Can they, at home, deliver a level of performance that has enough energy, that has enough enterprise, and has enough creativity and quality in the team? Because ultimately it is Barcelona who dictates this. Because they're, for me, on their best day, the best team in Europe. And so unless they don't deliver, then you wouldn't expect Mallorca would really have much of a chance in this game. But if they don't deliver, then Mallorca is there to take advantage. You mentioned how they're pushing for European place, which is sort of beyond the realm of expectations for them. They got to a Copa del Rey final last year. This is a difficult team to beat week in, week out. You look at the table, they're in 7th. I mean, they're right there, especially with with Spain now getting 5 Champions League spots. They're in a position to play in Conference League next season, which is a great level for them to sort of test out European football. So Mallorca are there to take advantage, but ultimately it depends on Barcelona delivering, I would say, even a 7 or an 8 out of 10 for them to really have a chance in the game.
As we saw there in those highlights, Real Madrid squeezed through against the Athletic Club on Sunday, that late winner from Valverde. They're not exactly lighting up the league recently, but they did get the result they needed. And as we know, that they always seem to come up with the result, don't they, when their backs are against the wall in recent seasons. But you do get a sense that every game they've got coming up, particularly this one against Getafe next on Wednesday, is like a cup final for them. They have to win these games.
Yeah, and I think you look at Getafe at home, and just in general, they're a rare team in Spain with an identity that isn't about the beauty of their possession, the beauty of their football. It's about how difficult it is to go there and get something. And we see Atleti, really their La Liga title push, come unstuck at this stadium. Barcelona didn't win here, and you just wonder, again, Real Madrid playing game after game. They'll get Mbappe back, but they went from Wednesday to Sunday to now Wednesday to then a game at the weekend. And there is a little bit of Real Madrid, for me, that wonders, how much domestic honors really matter for them, or how much they sort of get animated by going and chasing domestic honors. Yes, if they beat Barcelona now to the end of the season, that will be a salvaging of their season in some way. But I do think that this is a club that really only gets up for Europe. And that has always been their identity and continues to be through this era where Barcelona have won many more league titles, but Real Madrid have won many more European Cups. And so you wonder if there is still that impetus within the team. Let's do it for La Liga. Let's do it for the Copa del Rey. And obviously, for both of these teams, getting ready for the final at the weekend is hugely important. But for Real Madrid, it is sort of a thing of motivation, especially going into a game at Getafe that will be hard. This is not going to be easy, and this is what they have left for the rest of the season. There is, of course, that game against Barcelona and the Clásico on May the 11th, and then going right the way through. None of these games are that easy, especially for a club that's performing as Real Madrid are right now. I thought they were pretty good against Athletic. Let's be very clear, though, a rotational Athletic. Very few of the players that you would see in their best starting 11 started in that game at the weekend, but I think Real can at least take a little bit of heart that Vinicius Jr. played well and with some purpose and with some impetus, and obviously that incredible goal from Federico Valverde as well.
If Real Madrid are to move forward next season, whether it be with this man at the helm or not, obviously we're kind of feeling like it might be the beginning of the end for Ancelotti at Real Madrid. What do they need to change? Where does this club need to focus on to make improvements?
Yeah, so I kind of picked out three things that I think they need to do. So the first for me, and you look at some of the running stats with this team, there is a running and a defending problem in this team. So I've just put simply run. And our CBS colleague, Phil Kitchemelides, had an incredible stat on his podcast released on Monday, where he said that the two players in La Liga that have walked the most this year are Vinny Jr. and Kylian Mbappe. More than any other player in La Liga, those are the two. That can't work. You can't have two guys that are just walking around the entire game. For me, number two is find a passer from deep in midfield. I actually sort of wonder if Trent Alexander-Arnold is the answer to this question, because I think a lot of people are talking about you need to go get a central midfielder that does that. But what does Trent do for that team if not to grow their passing range, to expand the game in a way that other players can't? He, for me, I was kind of thinking to myself, who is the player in Europe that is an heir apparent to the Toni Kroos skill set? And I think it might be Trent Alexander-Arnold. So if they get that deal over the line, that'll be big for them. And then number three, just kind of looking at this, Real Madrid team and the things they need to do, I think depth is a huge one. Depth is a massively big one, because you look at what's happened to them this season with Dani Carvajal being out injured, with Eder Militao being out injured, some of the issues they've had in other areas of the pitch. They just haven't had the depth to cover. They kind of got lucky that Raul Asensio has turned out to be as good of a player as he is, because otherwise that could have been a disaster. But without Carvajal, Lucas Vázquez, I don't think has been a good enough figure to replace him. They didn't go and get another defender in January. They don't really bring anybody up from the academy this year that has kind of made an impact in the way that academy players have made an impact for Barcelona. So there's some big tasks for them ahead in the summer.
And that's a great point, and I think that's the biggest difference for me between Real Madrid and Barcelona right at the moment. When Hansi Flick was forced into finding depth, looking to the academy because of all the financial issues, he was able to find it and trust them in the starting lineup because he had to. Real Madrid haven't been able to do that successfully this season.